Your car's fuel pump is the part that never takes a break, and when it fails, the whole vehicle is dead in the water. Replacing one isn't cheap either. It can run hundreds, even close to $1,000 on some cars. That's a big bill, and it usually shows up right when you least expect it. The catch is that a weak pump doesn't always announce itself with a full breakdown. Instead, the first signs hide in little quirks like long cranks, sputters, or weak acceleration under load. Stick with me, spotting those early clues is what saves you from being stranded. Your car may already be giving off warnings that look harmless, but add up to the start of pump trouble. Early clues your pump is struggling. Your car will give you warning signs if its fuel pump is failing or on the verge of it. Missing these means you're setting yourself up for a roadside breakdown. The fuel pump is the heart of your car's fuel system. Every second the engine runs, it pushes fuel from the tank to the injectors. The motor can't pull that fuel on its own, it needs steady pressure. When that pressure drops, even for a moment, the engine stumbles. The problem is, the stumble doesn't look like a fuel issue. It feels like a weak spark or a fading battery. That's the kicker. A weak pump copies symptoms from other parts, and people end up wasting time and money replacing things like plugs, coils, or starters that aren't actually bad. Long crank times are a classic sign. You turn the key and it takes several tries before the engine fires. Drivers often blame the starter or battery, but the real cause can be fuel pressure bleeding off overnight. A pump that won't hold pressure leaves the lines empty, so the pump needs extra time to prime before the motor gets enough fuel to start. Hesitation under load is another big clue. Step on the gas to merge or climb a hill, and instead of a smooth pull, the car coughs or feels flat. That's fuel starvation. The pump can't keep up with demand. At the same time, you may notice a noise from the tank. A healthy pump makes a soft hum. A failing one whines or whistles, a high-pitched buzz that means it's struggling to draw fuel and working much harder than it should. A weak pump also delivers fuel inconsistently. That shows up as rough idle, sudden loss of power when the car is pushed, or even an unexpected surge forward afterward. One moment you're dragging, the next it lunges. It feels random, but what you're really experiencing is uneven fuel flow. Too little at one point, too much at another. Those ups and downs create a trail pointing back to the pump. Pay close attention to fuel economy too. When the pump isn't maintaining proper pressure, the engine won't run efficiently. You end up paying for it with frequent trips to the gas station. The engine relies on a consistent supply, and when that isn't met, it burns more fuel trying to compensate. Misfires are another common sign, and they usually won't be limited to just one cylinder. With weak fuel supply, several cylinders misfire at once, which often triggers the check engine light. Scan the codes and you'll find multiple misfire readings, something that's hard to blame on plugs or coils alone. That wider pattern is where the pump steps into the spotlight as the likely cause. Heat makes things worse. A failing pump can overheat and shut down for short periods, especially in hot weather or when idling in traffic. From the driver's seat, it feels like random stalling or even overheating. But the root problem is simple. The pump can't deliver fuel consistently, so the engine starves and cuts out. Once the pump cools, it may restart, masking the true fault. The important thing is not to view these as isolated quirks. A single long crank, a random surge, or a whining sound might be ignored on their own. But if you're noticing a few of them adding up, that's when you should start suspecting the fuel pump before it leaves you stranded. Now that you know what signs to watch for, the next step is confirming your suspicion. And the good news, you can check it right at home with just a couple of basic tools. Simple tests you can do at home. So, how do you actually prove the fuel pump is weak? The answer is simple. A couple of straightforward tests you can do right at home. No shop, no lift, just the right tools and a few minutes of your time. You'll want two things, a fuel pressure gauge and a basic OBD2 scanner. The gauge connects to the fuel rail, usually right near the engine, and tells you if the pump can hold steady pressure at idle and under throttle. If the reading drops below the spec range listed in your owner's manual, that's your red flag. The scanner plugs into the OBD2 port under your dash. It reads the codes your computer has already stored, things like low rail pressure, P0087, a fault in the pressure sensor circuit, P0190, or lean condition codes like P0171. If you're seeing those along with misfire codes in the P0300 range, chances are the pump isn't delivering enough fuel. Put together, those two tools take the guesswork out. Here's the kicker, skipping these tests leads to wasted money. Many mechanics see owners replace filters, sensors, even ignition parts, when the root problem was a weak pump from the start. An affordable gauge attached for just 5 minutes could have settled the question before all those unnecessary swaps. Pause the video and grab a wrench, do this quick check now. Here's how it plays out on the gauge. On a healthy pump, the needle builds and holds pressure steady. Tap the pedal, climb a hill, load the engine, the gauge stays firm with only a small flutter. On a weak pump, the moment you demand more fuel, the needle dips. That drop translates into a stumble, stall, or loss of power out on the road. It's direct and easy to see. Stable pressure equals good pump, visible drop equals failure. Don't overlook the basics before you hook up tools. Check the pump's fuse and relay first. If the fuse is blown, the pump won't run at all. Simple fix. If that fuse blows again and again, that's a sign the pump itself is failing and pulling too much current. On the other hand, sometimes it's just a worn relay, and swapping it costs less than a fast food lunch. That's a far better outcome than tearing into the fuel tank prematurely. Another quick test is the hum trick. Turn the key to on, don't crank the engine, and listen near the tank. A working pump will buzz for a couple seconds as it primes pressure. Silence means no power or no pump operation. But don't be fooled, hearing the buzz doesn't guarantee strength. A failing pump can still make noise while moving barely enough fuel. That's why the pressure gauge matters. Sound alone doesn't tell the whole story. Think of the fuel pressure gauge like a blood pressure cuff for your car. You can hear the heartbeat by ear, that's the hum, but until you measure pressure under load, you don't know if the system is actually healthy. That clear measurement separates a strong pump from one on its way out. Once you add the OBD2 scanner to the process, the full picture comes together. Codes that call out rail pressure being too low, lean conditions across both banks, or widespread misfires all confirm fuel starvation. Side by side with a low gauge reading, those signals remove any doubt. Instead of guessing, do these tests and you don't just protect your wallet, you prevent the bigger damage that comes from running lean. A weak pump doesn't just cost horsepower. It can make the engine run hot enough to cause long-term harm. Catch it early and you stay in control of whether the car stays moving or leaves you stranded. Fuel pumps usually last over 100,000 miles, some even up to 200,000 miles. That's solid durability, but once wear starts, the small warning signs don't stay small for long. Ignored, they turn into stalls, surges, or a no start. One habit that stretches pump life is simple. Keep at least a quarter tank of fuel. The fuel doesn't just feed the engine, it also cools the pump. Run it too low, too often, and the pump runs hotter and wears faster. That little bit of prevention adds reliability you'll notice later. Subscribe for practical how-tos and tool-first tutorials you can use this weekend to keep your rig running right. Treat the pump like the heart of the car. Listen, test, and keep it strong.